Welcome to Mining Now, everyone. I'm your host, Jared Downey. Today we have MASPRO on the show. This is part 2 of 3 that they're doing. So we have Greg Kennard. He is the Managing Director at MASPRO. Greg, welcome to the show. Great to have you on.
Thanks, Jared. Great to be here.
Well, we're going to name what is that right beside you? It's hard to miss it. It's a giant yellow machine.
The yellow thing or a bit of steel?
We'll go with the yellow thing.
Okay, well, this is a robot or a robotic arm, and where the bit of steel sitting is what they call a nest.
Oh, okay.
So it feeds this piece of steel into the machine behind me, and obviously gets machined. Everything that happens to that piece of steel happens inside the machine. It gets transferred to the second chuck here, and then it's pulled out and put back into the nest.
Right. Well, it's a good location setup because obviously we're going to talk. We've had MASPRO on, just kind of giving an overall in that first episode. We're going to talk a little bit about specifically the technology that you're using to deliver to clients. So it's a good setup where you are. Can you give a little bit of your background first, Greg? Just, how you got into the industry, how long you've been with MASPRO, some of your professional work before that?
Yeah. So if we step back a long way. I grew up in Sydney, so I spent 16 years in Sydney, and then my father decentralised and came to central west New South Wales, to a town here called Condobolin, and he was originally in a wire manufacturing or wire product manufacturing business, manufacturing a number of different items such as wool bale fasteners, netting fasteners, and barb staples. He, as part of that factory or manufacturing centre, he had a machine shop on the side of it. And when I left school, I sort of started in my as a machinist. I did my trade as a fitter and machinist, and ended up spending a lot of time in that workshop. We started doing contract work just for the local farmers and the industry around here, and we had an opportunity to do some work for a local mining company. They brought in some gears that they had trouble sourcing, and we were able to reverse engineer those gears and come up with a product that they were very happy with. And we then realised that there's a great market out there for spare parts in the mining industry. This particular part was off an underground rock drill or a drifter, and we realised that it wasn't just one part. There's a number of parts that we could develop and come up with a design that maybe could outperform the original design, and stock these things and ship them to clients around Australia. So in a nutshell, that's where we started. Where we are now is a completely different story, Jared.
When you say we started, was your family the founder of MASPRO?
No, my father, Laurie, he worked for MASPRO Wire Products.
Oh, okay.
In Marrickville. This was years ago in the 80s.
Okay.
He ended up buying that business and running it out of Meadowbank in Sydney, Australia. And then he moved that business to Condobolin. So we still trade under the name MASPRO, but it's a completely different entity.
Right. I didn't realize the connection to you, to your father, to buying MASPRO. I didn't know any of this. So
it's all part of the story.
Well, I mean, that is why we do the show. It's sometimes nice when I don't know things, because then it's like I'm pretending to like. So where did your family come from? And it's so I genuinely didn't know. So you grew up kind of with MASPRO then.
Yeah, basically, yeah. I as a young kid, I remember being in the factory. Back then, it was okay to walk around the factory without high vis and any of the safety gear.
Right.
I did spend a lot of time on the factory floor.
Let's talk about our Heavy Industry World Tour, brought to you by Savar Equipment, supplying mining equipment worldwide. We are heading to events across North America and Australia and filming episodes on location. Email us at info@crownsman.com to be part of Crownsman's Heavy Industry World Tour. Solving the complexities of operational efficiency, safety and compliance, and asset management in mining can be a significant headache. Madison Technologies understands these challenges, and with over 3 decades of industrial communications experience, they're not just a supplier, but a transformative partner in digitization. Madison Technologies accelerates the digital journey of their clients, and together with global technology vendors, they deliver practical, real-world solutions. Visit madison.tech to discover how they can help you unlock future potential with Mining 4.0 solutions. If you're treating refractory gold or complex ores, then you need How to Leach Difficulty or Varying Feeds and Recover More. It's packed with cases and papers on Albion process leaching technology. But it also has the world's first online calculator. It's free, and you'll learn what CapEx and OpEx you'll need for Albion process to treat your feed. You need Albion process to liberate your refractory locked gold. To get your pack and use the free calculator, click the link in the description below. Hey mining enthusiasts, registration for CIM Connect 2024 Vancouver from May 12th to 15th is now open. Last year, this convention had over 6,800 participants from 60 countries, with 1,796 delegates, 702 booths, and 320 presentations. Secure your spot and register now at convention.cim.org. CIM Connect 2024, where quality and innovation define the experience.
I mean, you kind of already went through it, but I guess I'm asking with a renewed interest is how has the company transformed over the last, from the 80s to now? That's quite a run. I'm sure there's been quite a few shifts over the years.
Yeah. So as I said, where we started and where we are now is two completely different beasts, for want of a better word. But I think the transition from being a wire product manufacturer into being a hardcore manufacturer with utilizing the latest technology was a huge paradigm shift for all of us. But it obviously required someone to have some vision and understand, okay, well, where do we want to be in 10 years, and being able to execute on that vision. So I think we started very small. Obviously, it was myself and one other guy in the workshop, and we grew from there. I managed to get my brother to come along for the journey, and then my second brother. So the three of us really got this thing on the road, and I was probably the guy with the vision, and Martin used to go and do a bit of door knocking. He was into sales, and Jason was in operations.
Right. And that pivot though, so any part of that old, like the wire business, that's not part of the business at all anymore then?
Well, it's not part of the same entity, but it is still actually on the premises.
Oh,
so
okay.
We had a client come through recently. We dealt with him up at Mount Isa for many years. He'd never been to the site, and he was on his way through, and he called Martin and said, "Look, I'd like to call in and just have a look at the place." But Martin said, "Yeah, no problem. Come through, and we'll catch up with you." And the first thing he wanted to see was the old wire manufacturing plant.
Yeah, the same way. I'd be the exact same way.
It's still there, and that's where he started.
Right.
The first thing he saw was the old machines, the old original machines that used to make these wool bar fasteners with the coils of wire that fed into the machines, and they fired them up and made a few of these wool bar fasteners, and so he was very interested in that journey.
So that was at the time, though. Because I'm always fascinated by this. Was that part of an So that was an expansion, not exactly it was not a pivot away from a business. It was expanding into a new business at the time. Then.
It was a complete change. It was probably, I was a driver for that change. I suppose I couldn't see a lot of future in the whole wire side of things. And I could be wrong, but it wasn't for me.
Right.
The wool industry was slowing down, so there wasn't, like, the core product was obviously the wool bar fastener. It's quite famous in Australia. If you Google it now, the MASPRO wool bar fastener, it'll come up. It's back years ago. Well, they still do it now. When they shear a sheet, they compress the wool into what they call a wool pack, and these wire clips actually held the flax together on the top of the wool pack.
So when you made that change, that must have. Can you walk us through that pivot? That's a major shift for a company, to say the least.
It was, but it didn't happen overnight.
Right.
So it was an incremental change. Look, we obviously decided who we wanted to be in the future, and we just put the wheels in motion to get there. And there were some hard yards. All of us, spent a lot of time in the machine shop, on the shop floor, and that's where we grew up. Now I wouldn't know how to switch this machine on behind me. It's just the way the business has evolved.
Right. I mean, has there been actually? I guess before I jump into that, some of the technology you're using now, where now today, fast forwarding, has been. Where is the competitive advantage for the business?
I suppose our competitive advantage, at the moment, is that we're very agile. We're very flexible when it comes to providing solutions to our clients. So we get on site, we understand what the needs are, or what our customer pain points are, and we design a solution and deliver on that. We've got great capacity to take a concept right through to designing it to producing it on like a machine similar to what's behind me here, to stocking it in strategic locations so we can support our client base. I think that is our strength, our competitive advantage.
Something about your business, because I've always had a little bit of understanding, trouble understanding the investments in the different technologies. So how did you approach that, knowing, okay, in this market, in this region, this is what we need to invest in because this is what the clients are going to ask? Or are clients asking for things, but I can't imagine they're asking in real time because you have to plan these out pretty strategically. So I'm kind of wondering how you sort of develop the right setup for the environment you're in, or the customers you'll be delivering to.
Yeah, it's an interesting question, Jared. Like, it's not about coming up with a product that we sell to our clients. It's understanding what the needs are. And so what you see behind me is only one form of what we do.
I'm just always curious in businesses similar to yours that how do you find where to make the investment? I don't know if it changes by region, what clients you have within your vicinity. It always fascinates me because I know they're big investments you have to make. How do you assess over the years what to invest in for your capabilities?
Yeah, well, it's all about the product we supply and what the capability and capacity of the machinery we need to produce that product. So we don't invest in something without knowing that, the products we're manufacturing can be produced efficiently and effectively on these machines. But I think it's more than that. It's understanding what the needs are in the industry, like being on site, getting to the rock face, understanding where those problems are, understanding where our customers' pain points are. And obviously that flows into some kind of design, and it's going to be pieces of steel machined and put together, and we sort of know what fits in our wheelhouse and what doesn't. So we won't take on stuff that is outside of our core capability, but focus on stuff that fits in to what we do really well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It's still, I still look at it, and because I'm not in that business, I look at it and I go, it's still that you got to have to be willing, I would think, to have a certain level of risk to go, okay, this is what we see the clients need, so we're going to invest in this device, in this technology. We're going to engineer it to deliver to a client that maybe hasn't bought that product yet, or have you already started manufacturing other products for them so okay, there is a demand here?
Yeah, exactly that. We understand that, typically with an underground or an open pit piece of mobile fleet, there's going to be certain products that we'll be able to produce really well, just based on our previous experience with those products. So I think it's about increasing your capacity over time. So you might have started with a couple of CNCs that can turn a number of different pins and bushes and cut gears or whatever the product was. But I think as you grow and as you expand your operations, you understand where the need is. There's a lot of market research that happens. Understand what is next for the company. We are following a vision, of course. We know where we're going. We know what products we're going to produce next, and that all flows down into operations.
Orica Digital Solutions seamlessly connects customers' physical and digital worlds so they can readily understand and optimize operations at every step of the value chain, from exploration to processing. Whether deployed individually or as a whole, Orica Digital Solutions technologies deliver intelligence for open cut and underground mines to make more precise and faster decisions. With a complete, timely, and accurate picture, operations can adapt to improve safety, drive productivity, reduce costs, and environmental impacts. To learn more about Orica Digital Solutions, visit orica.com/digital solutions today. Introducing RemScan by Ziltech, the game changer for rapid hydrocarbon soil measurement. Get accurate petroleum hydrocarbon readings in under 30 seconds. No consumables, no wait time. Just scan your sample for on-the-spot result. Perfect for emergency spill response, spill delineation, excavation chasing, and bioremediation monitoring. RemScan is trusted by top industries and backed by independent verifications. Make real-time decisions without the lab wait or expense. Discover more at ziltech.com or email them at info@ziltech.com. REMScan by Ziltech, the future of rapid soil assessment. Okay, so let's give a special thank you to one of our longest sponsors of the show, Savar Equipment. And I'm actually going to hand it over to Jared so that he can give you a little bit more info on Savar Equipment.
Yeah, thank you. So I mean, people see them as sponsors, so they'll ask me, kind of who they are, what they are, and just trying to understand the scope of the company. So Savar Equipment is a mining supply company, and they're delivering on the whole equipment supply chain. So everything from the ore processing to underground mining, open pit. They're in hard rock and placer operations. And what they're doing is they're sourcing equipment from all over the world and then delivering it all over the world. Now, they are a Canadian company, so they're based there. But, let's say, they're selling entire ore processing plants. So there might be a plant down in Latin America, and there's a new mine that needs that plant in Africa or somewhere in the U.S. So they're facilitating that entire transactions. But they're also delivering, an individual conveyor or a concentrator or a pump package or just an electrical package. So it really is the whole gambit of the mining equipment supply chain.
Oh, that's great then. Well, then you definitely have to check them out if you're looking for mining equipment. Visit them at savanaequipment.com, where you will find more equipment every day.
Has it changed over time? We've got EVs, we've got machines that are bigger, there's more demand on the machines, more demand on the operation. Have you noticed that? Has that been noticeable from your end, supplying these companies?
Yeah, I think so. We've always had a policy that we'll buy the top of the range because we can push the machines harder and faster, and they're more reliable, and we get better support. We've got a number of these DMG Mori machines right through the whole factory, both here in Condobolin and Wetherill Park, and their support has been second to none. And I think having those supplier partnerships where they, sit with us and understand what we're trying to machine or potentially machining in the future and put forward solutions, working closely with guys like that is an enormous benefit.
Something as I'm talking to you, and we haven't met in person. We're doing this over a video call, so it's always a bit of a new experience, no matter how many times I do an interview. But I am curious, when you're having to lead the charge from what you said earlier, leading the charge on pivoting the company, bringing in new technology, doing the market research, anticipating what your customers are going to need. Is that a natural thing for you that you had like quite early on in your career? You realized, no, I'm into doing this stuff, or has it been developed?
No, it's a really good question. I do think that I had the ability to have a vision and get people to buy into that vision. That's probably how I got my two brothers to come along for the journey. Is it they understood where I was going and bought into where I wanted to go. Mm-hmm. Is that your question?
Yeah, it is. I'm wondering where that and you just had that from a very early on. You realized you had that ability. Was it a conscious realization?
No, I don't think so.
No, you just went for it.
Became more apparent later that, hey, it's something I'm doing. It's working.
What's been the challenges though over the years? I'm sure there's been some tough days. What has been the challenge of leading the company on and growing it like you have?
Well, every problem lands on your desk, doesn't it? Mm. So, I think there's been a number of different things and challenge. It hasn't been an easy run, and I think manufacturing in Australia is, there's going to be some tough times. There's going to be some hard decisions to make. Mm. But I think having that resilience and having a never say die attitude,
right,
and just going for it, and bringing those that are working with you, empowering them to do what they can do best, creating an environment where they can do their best work is very important. I think that's what leadership's all about, is inspiring and empowering others so that they follow your vision, they understand where you want to go, and they're passionate and driven and hungry. Mm-hmm. They want to be part of this company that's moving forward.
Well, and I would imagine you need to instill, because it is a demanding job, right? Your clients, they can't have downtime. They can't have things late. They can't have it not work. There's really not, from my understanding, there's not a lot of room for error.
No, there isn't. You don't get any second chances in this industry. And if you send something out and it doesn't fit, there's issues.
And then how do you
potentially a drill
sorry.
potentially a drill down or a piece of mobile equipment down because you've supplied a part that doesn't work or failed in service or doesn't fit. I think the attention, the detail, the level of quality that is expected on site is the bar set pretty high.
Has it been raised, kind of going back to that, the modern day of mining? Has that bar been raised even more with all the pressure on these companies?
Yeah, definitely. There's always production targets they've got to hit. They've got to keep that drill running, drilling meters. That's what they're paid to do. So there's extra pressure on the guys, especially underground, where there's increased risk. There's the whole operation underground is high pressure. I think the guys operate at a different level underground than they do on the surface.
Mm-hmm.
And where you've got a drill down, or there's something that doesn't fit, or there's a problem with a delivery or something that hasn't turned up, or there's whatever the case may be, there's just it's 10x underground.
Yeah. When you mentioned earlier going, being at the rock face, does your team spend time actually at the operations, really trying to find these pain points?
Yeah, so that's probably one of the things we try and do a lot of, is actually get right to the rock face, understand what conditions these drills are operating in, what problems they're facing, see it in real time. I think it makes a huge difference just being there on site. Because, there's so many layers of management in a typical mine that the feedback you really want could be completely diluted by the time you get it. Being there on site, understanding what the problems are, touching and feeling, whatever it is, it gives you these insights that you won't get any other way.
The other thing I wanted to ask you about is keeping the team together. You've got, from my understanding from the last interview, there's design, there's production. I'm guessing there's things like logistics and all this thing. How do you keep the team not just communicating, but also pushing forward to always get to that top level they need to be?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. What we promote here is we want everyone to be a team player. There's some traits that we look for, and it's around being humble, hungry, and smart. Humble is someone that's lacking in ego. They're willing to go that extra mile. They're not looking for recognition of themselves. It's a team effort. And then the hungry part of it is, they're passionate, they're driven, they want to go further. They're always researching something. They just take it to that next level.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the smarts, the hungry, humble, smart. The last point there. It's someone that's emotionally intelligent, someone that can work in a team, understands team dynamics, understands what they say how that may impact someone. And I think those three traits really bring together what we call a team player.
Are those things can you teach that? Can you teach humility to somebody, or is that sort of they have it or they don't?
No, I think you can learn it. You definitely can learn it. It depends how, if you are prepared to learn, you can learn to be humble. I think it's important to have some trace of humility. If you're completely arrogant, well, you're probably not going to get too far. But if you know how to be humble or how to bind on humility,
right?
Well, yeah, I think you can increase. Well, that's not really what I'm trying to say. Jump back.
Yeah. Well, actually, what I was going, I guess I would actually ask the question. Once I was halfway through the question, I realized, what, I would actually ask it different. How do you teach humility amongst your team? Especially, I imagine you're trying to get young people in to start their career with you, and usually I'll fall right into that category. Humility was not probably my strongest suit at 22 years old, let's say. But over time, you get humbled. And I'm wondering how you do approach that, because you can teach humility, but how do you, as a company, when people are coming into your team?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's all about our core values. And I think living and breathing as a leadership team here, and as we've got middle management, living and breathing those core values is what will guide the young people. They'll see what is recognised and what is appreciated in the company. What is non-negotiable, really, those traits are someone that's humble, someone that's hungry, someone that's smart.
Gets rewarded.
Gets rewarded, yeah, recognised and rewarded. And
Right.
it's I think that constant recognition of those values is, eventually what creates this culture that is pretty hard to find in a manufacturing environment.
Right. Well, that's the hunger one. That's the one I'm quite curious about. Is how do you sort of instill that in a team? Because I mean, you see people at the highest level. You'll see someone. I'll become really Canadian here. You'll see a team that is like Game 6 of the Stanley Cup playoffs, and all of a sudden you can see which team wants it more. And I mean, these are people that have given, I mean, a huge portion of their life to play this sport, and they are the best at it by any metric. And you can see that desire sort of leave a team all at once. And you think about it, how easy that is to happen at that level. And then where, people are working, machinists and engineers, and trying to keep them. And I'm quite curious how you sort of instill that hunger in a team.
Yeah, I think it is set on from the top. Like, I'm hungry and passionate. We had a bit of a round the table discussion the other day about, what does Greg look like on his worst day, or what does Greg look like on his best day? And we sort of went around the table, had a bit of a session on it.
You're going to give my team ideas now.
It's quite interesting what came out of it.
I bet.
But I think, Jared, there is one thing, is you can't make someone hungry. I think it's an innate thing. They've got to have that hunger in their belly.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's where I think hiring is so important. We hire A players hire A players, and people want to work in a culture like this.
Yeah.
People are hungry, are driven. They want to work in a culture like this. This is what really sets us apart from the competition. I think we attract A players because we're a company that wants to get ahead. We're passionate. We're driven. We're always doing something different. And I think that comes through our videos, our people and culture videos. And people pick it up and say, I really want to be part of that team.
Right.
I want to work in that environment.
Yeah, I would say especially young people, even if they don't realize it sometimes, they want to be pushed. They want to feel like they're part of something important. People don't just want to collect, in general, they don't just want to collect a paycheck. That gets to be really long days if you're just there waiting for the clock to be done. And you see that people, and you see them. I mean, if you watch them do it over years, you'll see them literally wither away doing it.
Yeah, yep. But the company needs to create opportunities for young people as well.
Right.
Yes,
Yeah.
there's got to be a career path. You can't just get a young guy in and put him beside a machine and say, look, you're there 8 hours every day.
Right.
I think having those tiers of management where we've got team leaders that are actively looking to create pathways for young people is so important. And I think that is part of our people strategy, is to give them a pathway so they can progress in their career. I'll just take this off the record, but Jared, it is interesting. I did an interview like this the other day with a guy, just some internal marketing, and he was wearing a yellow high-vis top. So that's, in our company, that's external. People come in, they wear a yellow that aren't part of the company, and those employees wear an orange vest. And at the end of the interview, he says, "Oh, I've got to put this orange vest on. I want to be part of this company." I think, it's interesting how you can create an environment where people just want to become part of it. They love a challenge. They love being part of something that's doing different things. It's challenging everything, that's wanting to get ahead.
Right. That actually leads me to another question, though, for you in upper management, is you have to find that balance between being a stable company and being a company that pushes. Not an easy balance. A lot of companies get it wrong. How do you find that balance of keeping it engaging, but also keeping the bottom line stable?
Yeah, it is an absolute challenge. I think being able to execute on a solid plan, knowing your numbers, having budgets in place, it's just typical way a business should be run. Understanding your financial position, your free cash flow, your cash absorption rate, understanding, okay, well, we're going to go in for growth here, or we're going to put X amount of dollars into R&D. Just knowing the numbers, I think, is so important.
Before I let you go, I wanted to ask you about the shift in the mining industry. We've done episodes, companies trying to get lithium mines off the ground. Obviously, ESG is it is. I was telling someone yesterday that I hear very different views about ESG targets and all that sorts. And I say everybody's as passionate about their opinion as the next, more passionate than the last person was. So there's a lot of conversation around it. There's a lot of different pressures around it. Lithium mining is obviously the demand for it's going to just increase and increase. Has that, how has that, or is that, or do you think it's going to affect your operations?
Yeah, that's a good question. We do see, especially with the tier one miners, that their efforts with, or their focus on decarbonisation is massive. Reducing their carbon footprint, looking at what they can do to electrify the mines. I think it's the way of the future.
Mm-hmm.
This whole net zero policy, I think, is a game changer. And I was only listening to something yesterday about revolutionising, the way we extract minerals out of the ground. So who knows what's to come on that front. But as for where we stand, I think the space we play in, there's a lot of battery operated underground drills, light vehicles, but the tools, or the tools that do the job, are still made out of metal. They're still drilling using our products. I think where we can really add value on that front is look at what we can do to reduce our carbon footprint ourselves. As a manufacturer in Australia, what can we do to reduce our own carbon footprint?
And what are some of the solutions you found, or what kind of things are you looking at?
Yeah, I suppose we do solar, having solar panels, just having alternative sources of power supply. We're looking at potentially responsible sourcing, sustainable sourcing of our own product. Some of these machines behind us, I'd like to actually focus on it. I just haven't got the numbers in front of me, but DMG, some of our suppliers are actually looking at what they can do on that front as well. So as a manufacturer in Australia, we do see opportunity for us to produce products sustainably. As some of these miners seek to become carbon neutral, I think the focus is more underground operations.
Mm-hmm.
So the electrification of their fleet and operations underground, I think that'll be the way of the future. But obviously that comes with increased risk. As we mentioned before, the operations underground, there's increased risk of guys being crushed or hurt, or just the environment they operate in. I think what we can, we're actually working at the moment with a tier one contractor. He had some safety concerns around a piece of equipment that they had underground, and our guys were able to get on site and understand what the actual problem was. And within a short time, a week or two, they were able to come up with a solution that, everyone was happy with. And our guys were then able to manufacture that and send it out for trial. So right now we're working with this tier one miner that's trialing an upgraded version of a piece of equipment that they were using underground. So, I think that's where MASPRO can help when it comes to these ESG goals, is that safety aspect to it, and the efficiency. Like we redesign some of our products to last longer. Obviously the conditions underground, they push these machines to the limits.
Right.
And, they end up with fatigue, cracking and problems. Well, within their normal operating service life. And so we'll get in there, understand what those problems are, and come up with a new solution, or a redesign that allows them to drill further, more efficiently, more products, get more product out of the ground. But there's also that safety element to it. Your question around being carbon neutral, I think, is an important one. We've worked closely with some of our suppliers, especially DMG Murray, and some of the machinery they're pushing through now are actually carbon neutral, which is great to see. I think it adds to our overall philosophy to become a sustainable manufacturer in Australia. What I learned yesterday, I think, just being at this IMARC show, is that is, everyone is focused on decarbonisation. No matter what, there's got in some one form or another, these companies have got to become carbon neutral. So I think they're looking at any opportunity there is to increase what they can do on that front.
Right. And
It-
that's the supply.
And I think it
Yeah.
will become part of our growth strategy. I was just talking to a marketing manager with Claire. I don't know whether you met Claire. You met Claire, didn't you? We think that part of our growth strategy in the future is to look at, where we can be stronger in that area. I think that's the whole safety aspect to it with the electrification of these underground mines. I think where we can improve the product so that they're safer, the guys underground are safer, and just source responsibly, sustainably. I think that's the part we play as a manufacturing company.
Right. Yeah, so essentially being part of that as these companies, these tier ones are trying to get there, being part of that supply chain and that supplier that they need to.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah.
So they're looking at us and saying, we want to partner with these guys because what they're doing aligns with our values.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And you're going to see that as a demand, right, from these tier ones.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's non-negotiable. You've got to be playing in that space to even get a seat at the table.
Yeah. You were going to say, and there's another thing?
Yeah, I'm just going to say the flip side of all this is there is an increased demand for base metals. The likes of lithium, some of these copper, gold, other products that they're mining out here in Australia with the whole reduction of our carbon footprint, or reduction of global emissions. There is an increased demand on these base metals.
Mm-hmm.
So we're seeing hard rock mining going from strength to strength. I think hard rock mining is the net beneficiary of the world wanting to become carbon neutral.
Right. Yeah. And I don't know if the general consumer has quite clued in to that part yet. And I think that's going to be an interesting thing, because right now, even still, that there's a lot of focus on like the oil and gas sector. And it's going to be interesting once the public starts to really understand, there's these major mining operations that will be needed now, and they're going to have to operate at such efficiency to be able to supply without basically just replacing the problem. It's going to be a quite interesting dynamic between the mining operations and the public, as the demand is just going to skyrocket, and then the mines have to then increase. That there's no other way you can do it.
Yeah, every time you buy something electric, whether it's an electric car or an electric scooter, it's started off as a mineral in the ground.
Yeah.
And so a lot of it is extracted from, underground, some of these hard rock, deep underground in some of these hard rock mines.
Yeah. I think one thing that the mining industry, I don't mean just the operators, I think, and I think companies are starting to do a lot better at it, is not just that piece about everything you have comes from mining, because it's true. But I think the other thing is really showcasing the technology coming out of mining. I think in getting people excited about that. People don't necessarily go look at a Tesla and go, "Oh, well, it came from mining." They don't seem to. The industry pushes it, but I don't really see the general public responding. They're kind of just neutral about it. They go, okay. But I think once you see the technology that's coming out of mining, that's hard to not be sort of awed by, of what they're doing and what they're capable of doing, and the monitoring, the data collection, and showing what a mine can do and where they should be mining at what time. I think people are interested in that. I mean, our audience certainly is, and they're watching from all over the place.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's exactly what you say there, Jared. Is it, there's a lot of remote operations happening now where you've got, a drill or a truck underground that's being operated by someone sitting in an office.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a lot safer for the guys. But I think the whole concept, we could be in for a revolution in the mining industry once some of these major players decide this is the route they want to take.
Well, and finding people in the industry as well, right? Because all of a sudden now, if you can be in Vancouver, I don't need to move to some rural area to run a machine. I mean, all of a sudden now there's a lot more people interested in that job, just naturally, right? So it's going to bring in a new workforce, is the hope, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. And the kids these days, they've come off joysticks, haven't they? Yeah. So it's just a small transition from one that's actually wasting time.
Yeah.
It's actually producing something valuable.
But watch, this next generation is going to say, you know what? We're not into phones. We're not into technology. We want to go back to the old days. Watch that happen. Watch them switch it up on everybody.
Absolutely.
Before, yeah, no, it was a great answer. And I promise I'll leave you with one last question. I won't keep adding them on, which is something I tend to do. What has been the biggest? This is just sort of the leadership part. And I always try to throw in something like this, especially when I'm talking to someone at the executive level, is what has been the biggest sort of learning curve throughout your career? When you sort of take a minute to look back, where do you see when, I made a shift there that made a big difference in the way that the company ran?
Yeah, no, that's really good. I think the paradigm shift for me was getting off the machines and realizing that if I was going to scale this business, I couldn't be on the workshop floor.
Right.
I had to get off the machines. I had to learn how to think big, learn how to build a team that could take this business to the next level.
Right.
I think that was the biggest point in my career. But if I didn't do that, I wouldn't have got where we are today.
Right. How long did that take to develop? I'm going to count this as part of the same question. How long did that take to sort of feel where you felt confident you were getting it right? I mean, you always grow, but where you felt, okay, I've made this pivot and I'm managing well. I'm growing the team in the way that I sort of envisioned.
Yeah, I think well, obviously it's about the revenue, isn't it? Like if everything's working the way it should.
I like that answer. Thank you for that answer.
Team that's doing their best work. Well, you're going to see the results come through, aren't you? In top line revenue, of course, profits flow through. And being able to share that, I think one of my philosophies is growth by sharing. So we're looking at growing the business. Well, it's not all about the owners and directors. It's about, being able to distribute that wealth through the company, giving these guys an owner's mindset. So there's a focus on EBITDA. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. In the sense that it was actually a very good answer, because that a lot of people don't go for the bottom line answer when they're talking about that stuff. And I think they do the company a bit of a disservice, honestly, when we don't talk more about the responsibility of the executives to get to the bottom line. It's almost like we're pretending it doesn't exist. And there's no business without that. No, I really appreciate you taking the time. This is part 2 of 3. We're going to do another one with MASPRO and just keep peeling back the company. So, Greg, thank you for joining us. And all these questions I'm throwing at you, I appreciate you taking the time to do it. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, likewise. Really enjoyed it. Thanks, Jared.
And thank you, everybody, for watching. There will be links in the description, of course, to MASPRO, but also the other episodes that they've done with us. Multi-episodes are always the best because you actually get to tell the stories of these amazing companies that we introduce you to. So thank you, everybody, for watching. Please reach out to their company as well. Connect with Greg. We'll have his LinkedIn link in the description as well. Please subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We will see you on the next episode of Mining Now.